Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jade Woodard, and I'm the Executive Director of Illuminate Colorado. Illuminate strengthens families, organizations, and communities to prevent child maltreatment. Every year, we honor the contributions of exceptional individuals and organizations who furthered our collective mission to strengthen families. Today, we're honoring Marilyn Fausset, one of the recipients of the Community Leadership Award. The Community Leadership Awards recognize those individuals who have dedicated an extraordinary amount of time and shared their personal experiences to further systemic change and strengthen families in Colorado. Thank you for being here today and for joining me. I am so honored to get to talk to you and to get to hear about you and your experiences. Can you just start by sharing a little bit about what you're working on?
Well, let me just say it's my pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you very much. I am here for my work as the co-chair of the FASD Awareness Workgroup, FASD being Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder. I'm the co-chair, and we work on spreading awareness, as the name says, spreading awareness to families, to providers, to everybody about the prevalence and severity of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder.
Great. So what inspired you to get involved in this work?
I have two kids that I adopted several years ago. Knew that the mother had abused alcohol because that was in the paperwork, and didn't really realize what that would mean. And what it did mean is my daughter had learning disabilities. She was immature, more like a younger kid. She had some speech and language issues. And then I adopted her, and then I later was able to track down her half-brother, adopted him at age 12, and he was a little bit more challenging, and we took him to quite a few providers, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, special ed, social workers. Nobody realized that his main issue was fetal alcohol exposure. And in fact, we didn't have him diagnosed till age 23. So I see that as a big challenge. I see that as like this needs to change.
Yeah.
Providers need to be able to identify the kids that have the fetal alcohol exposure. They need to realize that in some cases, they can't live independently, they struggle at school, however, they're often misdiagnosed. And we now know it could be as many as 1 in 20 are affected. And so I just felt like once I was retired from working, I had time to really take this on and try to make changes, whether it's prevention, just education so people could get services, so the kids are understood, so that they don't end up in jail or on the streets. And so it's personal because it's my family.
Yeah.
And I was able to help my son, had been a special ed teacher, I educated myself. I still do. I'm still learning about this. It can be challenging, but not everybody has that ability or that time. And so it's really like become a mission that I'm dedicated to. And I'm really glad to have this. I'm glad to have this in a way. I'm sorry that the condition exists, and I'm also glad I feel like I'm able to help.
What do you want to see different as a result of your advocacy?
That's a good question. I would like to see training for all professional, anybody that we take our kids, even or adults to, I would like all of them to know about FASD, about the prevalence and the effects and the symptoms. It affects executive function, for instance. Mm-hmm. So it's different than ADHD or some of the others, autistic, and yet it's more common. I would like all the people that I took my kids to be able to recognize the issue. And then I would also like, at the federal level, the FASD Respect Act that's going to provide some financial supports for making this have that pass. But I think and I would also, along with the people knowing about it, also knowing the importance of diagnosis.
Yeah.
That's been one of my biggest biggies because of the diagnosis, at least here in Colorado, and we're lucky, my son was able to get services, Medicaid-funded services as a developmental disability, and he has lots of supports that he needs, and it's really helped him, and it could help so many other people if people can recognize it. I mean, I'll tell people, and I'll also say things like, alcohol, if you drink alcohol during pregnancy, it's actually worse than doing heroin. And when I tell that to people, they're just amazed, and they really don't know that much about this. So I'd like to change that.
Yeah, those long-term effects are really profound.
Yeah. So I think that the group that I help lead with Illuminate, we just recently changed our name to FASD Awareness Workgroup, and I think that's exactly the awareness. If the awareness is there, we can help with prevention, provide services, do more research. I'm probably leaving out something. But
It has meant so much to us to have your voice there. I think no one really can understand what it's like, the way that someone has been there. And I feel like you have just brought such truth and grounding to that work to help us really understand what truly needs to shift. And, even just the conversation, around what does a diagnosis actually mean and how can that change a person's life has been so meaningful. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being in this space with us.
It's nice to be recognized. So thank you. And I love, I have lots of stories, and I always feel like that telling my story, and a lot of other people is what really, like you said, what really helps. So, happy to share my story, and happy for Illuminate Colorado.
And we're happy
and
to
you.
have you. All right. Well, thank you so much, and so proud to honor Marilyn today.
Well, thank you.